All right. Okay. Okay, Bethany, what are we talking about this week?
Well, let's face it, life can get a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah, no
and
doubt.
It can be hard to take time away within marriage just to focus on each other and invest in that relationship, especially once the kids come along, for sure. So why is it still so important to keep on dating within your marriage after you say the words, I do? We're going to be talking about that coming up on the Hopecast.
Hey, we're Steve and Bethany, a former radio team turned podcasters.
We're passionate about learning and sharing ways of putting the words of Jesus into practice in real life.
Here we go.
All right, welcome in, Hope Dealers. We appreciate you being here and joining us for another week here on Steve and Bethany's Hopecast. Now, before we get to our topic at hand, which is talking about date nights and the importance of that, let's rewind a little bit and let's go back to last week. We talked about missing life before kids, the life you had.
Right.
And it was something that's been trending on social media a lot that you saw.
Yeah, I brought this up last week that I'd been noticing on Instagram, particularly moms saying like, I love being, my kid's mom and I love my kids, of course, but I really miss her. And then they post pictures of themselves or videos of themselves before they had kids and kind of almost glorifying the life like pre-kids, like it's somewhat better, or they just miss it. And so it got me thinking, even though I don't have kids, is this something that a lot of people do deal with? Because I've been seeing it a lot on social media, and we talked about that last week.
Yeah, and we got a really nice email from a lady named Kathy. She said that she didn't miss her life before kids at all. She said she has kids from 18 to 34 and grandkids from 5.5 months to 8 years old. She said, it was my joy and privilege and honor to spend time with them. She said, I always did one-on-one time with each one of my boys, but then we also had family time where we were always together. And she says, now I'm getting to do that with my grandkids.
That's cool.
Which is really cool. She said, this is what I've prayed for ever since I was a young girl. God really does answer prayers and gives us the desires of our hearts. How nice is that?
That's really
Isn't that
sweet.
sweet? So thank you, Kathy, for getting in touch.
And it's really refreshing, too, to hear such a positive view of motherhood and even being a grandparent. Like, to hear that from her, I think that's really encouraging. That's cool.
Well, I know you said the trend on social media is always to say, oh, life was so much better before.
Right.
It almost makes me think of, in a Bible terms, like when the children of Israel were in the wilderness. And we could just go to Egypt.
Come on.
Everything was so much better, right? But
Kinda true.
I'm sure that's probably not apples to apples comparison,
Right.
but yeah, we get the drift.
But I think, not to go too far back to last week and kind of camp there for too long, but I think that it just goes to show that social media, I think particularly, is a place where we can all compare and be like, man, do you remember how great high school was? It's so great if we could just go back to high school. Or, oh, do you remember like college? College was so much fun. If we could only go back there. And it seems like particularly social media is a place where people can just reminisce about how great their life was before X, Y, and Z. And I think it just is a good reminder that when our eyes aren't completely focused on Christ, anything is going to sound better or be more appealing than maybe the problem that we're dealing with in the present or the struggle that we're facing right now. It's going to be easy to go back and wish for things in the past and not really be present and be grateful for what we have right now and in the present.
Yeah, it's absolutely living in the moment, because so often we get hung up on stuff behind us, or we worry about the future, when God, I think, it really wants us to live in the moment. I think when Jesus talked about having that abundant life, I think that's what he was talking about. Living each day in the moment and letting him be in control and just kind of being with him in the moment, I think is what the main thing is. And before we move on, I do want to talk about one little quick thing that I thought was kind of cute and kind of fun. Speaking, we were talking about little kids and having kids and all that kind of stuff. I have a 7-year-old.
Right.
He's my youngest. And yesterday in children's church, as we taped this on a Monday, for whatever reason, I'm not sure exactly the whole theme of it, but they were talking about presidents, somehow being president in this kind of thing, right? Well, one of the other little boys in the class was, I guess, elected president or something, or talked about being president or something. Yeah, right.
Like in school, I guess?
No, this was in this children's church example.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He was like the president.
Cool.
So my son says, hey, that's so cool that you're the president. I want to be your lawyer. Not I want to be your vice president. Not I want to be your bodyguard.
Speaker of the House.
No, I want to be your lawyer, which I thought, he's probably paying a little bit too much attention to the news.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The presidents need lawyers all the time. So I just thought that was funny.
Not a whole lot gets past Brett.
I guess not, yeah.
And honestly, though, you think about this. Have you heard the phrase like, oh, they're aging like a president? Have you heard that phrase?
No, I haven't.
It's true, though. If you look at past presidents, in the time that they become president, they age like 20 years.
For real,
because they've got the most stressful job ever. Yeah. They got to hold up the country. It's a lot of pressure.
And the free world.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like that's the kind of job that nobody wants. Like, I don't want that job. I don't want to age that fast. The president's lawyer, though, looks great.
That's right.
Because he's getting paid hand over fist. Right. Like, he doesn't have as much stress on his plate. He's got enough, but, not quite the level that the president's
And he's stacking those Benjamins.
And he's stacking them up.
That's exactly right.
I like it.
Before we get to our main topic today, I want to remind you about our Patreon. If you like to support the show, if you're one of Steve and Bethany's fans and you think, man, I would like to get on the inside of the things that they're doing, well, you can do that for as low as $5 a month. We have a multi-camera video shoot that we release every single week, early and ad-free to our patrons, and that's just a start. If you want to go a little bit higher tier at $15 a month, we've got other bonus goodies for you as well. It's just a way for us to say thank you for those that believe in us, because not only do they support us financially, but they also are very encouraging to us with texts and emails and prayer requests and just being there for us. We all the time reach out to our Hope dealers for encouragement and try to give encouragement ourselves. So if you want to become a part of the community, a part of the family that we're trying to grow here, it's real simple to do. You can click in the show notes, just look for the Hope Dealers on Patreon link right there in the show notes, or go to stephenbethany.com and click on it there. And join us. We would love to have you. Okay, so we'll insert that ad for the Amazon right there. And we'll bring it back. Let me bring my show notes back up here. Where is it? Okay. All right. Are you bringing it back here, or you want me to? Why don't you bring it back?
Yeah, I can do it.
Oh, that's because I didn't send it just to you. I sent it to all three of y'all. That's why. Well, I was looking under your name in the text. I couldn't find it. I know. I was like, where is it? I was panicking. Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so this week we are talking about date nights. And I think it's hard to kind of keep on dating your spouse after you stop dating. When you say your vows and when you start your life as a married couple, it can be a little tricky because you're doing life together and like real life, you are sharing each other's burdens, you're talking about your day, and you are talking about who's going to go pick up groceries, and life is happening. And so it can be easy, I think, to get bogged down in the weeds of that and forget to spend time together and really prioritize dating. I think even though I don't have kids, I know that it can get even harder after kids come along because your priorities are shifting and suddenly you have other people to think about in your house, and it can get a little crazy. But we do know, though, that you can't, I think, be the spouse that you need to be the parent that you need to be, unless the priorities are correct in your house. And when you are really investing in the marriage that you have and investing in your relationship with your spouse, and that can mean some sacrifices, I think, to really focus on, okay, maybe we're going to just kind of, okay, it's time to pay a babysitter. We're going to have them take care of the kids. And even though it's going to take some effort on our on our part to do that, we're going to make that sacrifice and really prioritize spending time together. I know just in my own marriage, we've had to schedule things out because honestly, it's just sometimes you just don't think about it. You're like, oh, well, we haven't been out to dinner in a while. It's been a minute, and you just don't think about it. Have you felt that way though with kids? Has that been hard to schedule a date night and prioritize that?
Oh, sure. It's incredibly hard. But before we get to that, I want to circle back to what you're talking about, to married people that without kids, right? It feels like singles, I guess. But because with the two of you there, you're always together, right? I mean, outside of work hours and whatever, but you're together. So when you actually go out on a date, sometimes it doesn't feel special. I can imagine, right? It just feels like, oh, it's just another night. Instead of eating at home, we're eating out, blah, blah, blah. And it really doesn't take the priority, I wouldn't imagine. It's been so long since I've been without kids.
Without children, yeah.
But I think that's the way it was. Is that way for you and Cody?
Well, I think I just don't think about it because it's, and I don't mean this in like a mushy gushy way, but like every night's kind of a date night because you're right. We spend time together and we don't have kids. So it's like, maybe we are eating at home or we're, having a movie night at the house or whatever. We have the chance to spend time together pretty much uninterrupted where we can have conversations and talk and whatever. But I think for me, I've realized I need almost like a special thought out time because it can get so routine that when you are able to, go out to dinner or go play mini golf or go see a movie in a theater or whatever, a date night looks like for you, it can kind of break up some of that monotony and be like, oh, we should do this more often. This is super fun. So like, for example, 2 weeks ago, Cody and I went and saw a movie in a theater. And obviously like with COVID, that hasn't happened in over a year.
So that was nice.
It was super fun. And it was great because we were able to have dinner together. We had a good conversation. We were able to talk about the movie afterwards. And it was one of those things where it was like, oh, it's like a little break from real life.
Yeah.
And it just kind of adds a little mix up in your routine, in your daily life. And it's just something fun. And then I've realized too that I think like when we prioritize that time, we end up having really good conversations. And when we're putting kind of an extra effort in of where we're going to go or what we're going to go do on a date night, we just put a little bit more thought into what we say and what we're talking about. And so I find that we have good conversations when we're putting in kind of more effort rather than, okay, it's just another night at home. Like, what are we going to talk about?
Well, see, I think too that, especially in that situation without kids, I would think it would be important to like get dressed up and go somewhere nice. Or maybe like you talk about the mini golf, something that you haven't done before, but make it special where it's not just the same old routine. I think would be important just to keep that romance kind of going, right?
Well, that's the thing, because I think, like I said earlier, you're doing life together. It's just day in, day out, normal stuff. And in some ways, that's the best part of marriage because you have somebody that is your partner in everything. And so the good and the bad and the ugly, they're with you on it. And I love that because it's like Cody's with me in the boring stuff. Like when we go grocery shopping together, that's fun. We spend more money when he's with me, but like it's fun. And so, we're able to just have a good time and hang out and do the normal things of life. But I've told, we've talked about this before. I think I've maybe shared this on the Hopecast. I'm not sure, but I've told Cody before, like, we need to make sure that we keep on dating. And I know, like, I want to start forming that habit now before we have kids so that when we have kids, it's already kind of a part of our routine to go out and have a date night. And that way it's not, one of those things that we get to the point where it's like, we haven't been out to dinner in 8 months. We got 4 kids running around. Life is insane. And I haven't felt like we've had a real conversation in months.
Because that
I don't want to
happens.
ever get there. Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't want to ever get there. And so I think for us, I've tried and he's tried as well to think of, okay, what are you going to enjoy doing? What are you going to enjoy doing? What's your favorite restaurant to go to? Let's do that. Let's have that be a part of our routine where we don't get kind of in a rut.
Well, I think that's great on the front end to have that mindset going into having kids, because I know kids are probably on your horizon within the next couple of years or whatever. But I will say, hearing that as a person,
you're like, hold on.
As a person with 3 children, that's good. And I want to pat you on your head and say, that's really sweet to have
good
that
intentions.
kind of thought. But it just doesn't work out a lot because obviously when you start having kids, that means finances start shrinking. Right. And it means like, man, everything just kind of, you got to rally together and you got to have beanie weenies, and all that kind of stuff as you get started and you start rolling in through life and whatever. And it does get hard because the kids do take priority. Instead of having date night, well, they need whatever. They need to be taken somewhere, go do something, and they become the priority. And if you're not careful, then all of a sudden your kids do become your ultimate priority, and you're running your life to make sure your kids get to go where they need to go at whatever times they need to be there. And all of a sudden, if you're not careful, the worst case scenario is in 10, 15 years, when those kids are out of the house,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're looking at the person that you've spent all this time with, and you're realizing, I don't know too much about this person. I don't know if I'm even happy being together with this person now that everything is kind of changed.
Well, when your world doesn't revolve around kids anymore, it's like, well, it's a loss of identity. And then you're going,
yes. Because
what are you unless we're talking about kids?
Well, because that's kind of the stage we're in a little bit right now with my oldest. He's almost 20 years old. So we're not dad and mom, not in the classic way.
Right.
Anymore.
It's a different phase of parenting.
It's a different phase of parenting. And so, yeah, it's kind of weird, kind of spooky. But my wife and I have been intentional to do it. Now, have we been always intentional? No. Early parts of our marriage, no, we probably weren't. We would always take our kids with us because we always felt like they're our kids. We want them to be. We don't want to leave them with a babysitter.
Right.
We only going to have them for so long. But the flip side of that coin is if you don't take the time to be intentional, and we learned this, like I say, we were probably married 15 years or so before we really said, you know what, we do need to just take some time. The oldest was old enough to kind of, be in charge for a couple of hours, just make sure the house didn't burn down or anything, and we could go out and go grab just a quick dinner or go run to Walmart or whatever we wanted to do.
Just some time together.
And I think that is so important. And if you don't make the time to do it, then that's when it can start to really unravel. You've got to keep those lines of communication open. And it's not just the communication. You really, and like where we are now, we are so comfortable with one another, and we've been together for so long that it's like the proverbial, comfortable coat or comfortable jackets, You in our stage of marriage, I think we really have to focus on romance too, to make sure that, hey, I still want to be with you and want you as not just a friend, but you're my wife. You're the person I want to spend the rest of my life with.
I think somebody that I've seen do this really well is my parents, because they celebrated
They really have.
Well, they've celebrated their 34th anniversary yesterday.
Congratulations.
And,
that's big time.
34 years of marriage.
Yeah.
And they, obviously, I mean, they got together when they were 18, I think now. Yeah, 18. And so they've grown up together in a lot of ways, raised 3 kids, and really have just experienced so much life together. They've moved to like 4 different states together and watched my dad change jobs. And I mean, they've been through a lot. But I think through all of it, even though my parents definitely don't have a perfect marriage, and there were seasons of life where it was kind of all about the kids and what we were doing, my parents still, I feel like, made it a priority to spend time together. And we as kids, or at least I'll speak from my experience, never once did I think I'm the most important person in this house. We knew it was my parents' marriage. It was like God, marriage, kids. That's the order that it went in. And I never felt less valued as a kid, but it was just like, no, when my parents are working well together and when they are spending time, everything's just going to work out. Like, when they're on the same page and they're kind of working together in a harmonious way, they're going to parent better. It's just going to work as a family. And so I've seen my parents over the years really be intentional about spending time together. And whether that was running to the grocery store, grabbing a cup of coffee from Starbucks or whatever, or maybe going on a weekend trip together, or, a couple years ago, they saved up for years and went to Costa Rica for their 30th anniversary. And like, really were like, we're going to do this. It's a big trip. We're doing it. So I've seen my parents do that. And I think that's something that I look up to and want to emulate in my marriage.
Well, I know there's probably someone listening saying, wait a minute, not make my kids the most priority, because that almost sounds like you don't love your kids as much as you love your husband or love your spouse. That seems backwards, but really, I mean, I think that the point you're making is really important. When those two are on the same page and everything is kind of clicking like that, that's when it's the best for everybody in the house.
Well, think about it. If you don't feel loved and valued by your husband, are you going to approach parenting in a great way? Or are you going to be maybe short with your kids because you're like, I'm in this thing all by myself and my husband doesn't do anything to help me and we haven't even talked, in a few weeks or whatever. Are you going to be as patient and as loving and as kind to your kids as you could possibly be? Obviously, we all have our days. Like, everybody has their moments where they're going to be short with somebody. But I think when things are in their proper place and in the right priority, when you're focusing on your relationship with the Lord first and investing in that, when you're spending intentional time talking to your spouse, I think things will work out, not perfectly. Nobody's going to be perfect.
But better.
Yeah,
I agree. I think so as well. And if you are a person who, when Bethany said, it's been months, weeks since we've spent any time together, I think if that resonates with you, I think then definitely you need to elbow out some time. Mm-hmm. You need to clear your schedule and go do something. You and your spouse and reconnect. And it could be as simple as just making a trip to the grocery store. But really, if it's maybe been that long, maybe you want to schedule out just some time to talk. Just sit down on the couch, mm-hmm. Make sure the kids are at the grandparents' house or a babysitter, and just take some time to be together, because I think that is super important. And if you don't, it could continue just that downhill slope mm-hmm. that you were talking about. That's a really good point. I'm really glad you brought that up. As far as things to do for like simple date nights, because obviously the money tree, especially at the Marston house, doesn't grow anymore. It has shriveled up and died a long time ago.
Somebody chopped it down.
Yeah, that's right. So I tell you, one of the things my wife and I like to do just as time to kind of get away is a lot of times we'll go share a meal somewhere, and it doesn't have to be really fancy or whatever, but we'll just go and just sit and just talk, mm-hmm. And maybe get a bowl of cheese dip, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just have a little conversation and spend 15 or 20 minutes and then go back to life as normal. But we just kind of elbow out that time. What's something that you and Cody do that's kind of cheap and easy to do as far as a date night goes?
We like to just drive around. And we more do this kind of like if we've just got the afternoon open, like we've done it a few times after church, that kind of thing, where we've got the afternoon open. So we'll be driving home from church and Cody will be like, we haven't gone this way before. You want to try this way? And I remember one time, the first time we did it, we drove back into this massive neighborhood that was like fancy houses, mm-hmm. and just drove through, and we were looking, and all these people like driving Lamborghinis were like, what are you guys doing here? But we drove through this whole neighborhood, and then just took some back roads that we'd never gone before and just talked, and kind of same thing, like it's just time together. I think understanding maybe your spouse's love language is important, because for Cody, he just wants to spend time together. We don't even have to talk. Like he's told me, he's like, if you just sit in the golf cart while I'm playing 9, I'm fine with that. Like,
really?
It's just me being there.
Look, Caleb's having revival over here.
Yeah, he's like, yes. But seriously, I'll drive the golf cart and just sit, and he's fine with that. And he says, he's like, that's time with you that I love. And
really?
So it doesn't have to be anything big. I prefer to talk. Yeah. As you might guess. And so my love language is quality time, but within that, it's quality conversation. So it's spending time together, whether it be in a golf cart or hiking or driving around, as long as we're having a conversation and we're talking. And it doesn't have to be, a big, serious, deep talk.
Right.
But just talking about, hey, what was the thing that your mom made when you were growing up, a meal that you absolutely loved? What was that? Yeah, or like, what's your favorite movie from when you were a kid? Or, whatever kind of questions, just getting to know each other more and continuing to grow and deepen our relationship. We like to do that. I mean, we love movies. So, spending time either watching something at home or going to a movie theater, we love that.
Yeah, we threw it out on social media as to some of our listeners and what they like to do as far as kind of cheap date nights. Well, Kevin, who has a great podcast of his own, he said going to one of their favorite restaurants.
Nice.
Mary Catherine, who we gave some static to last week, MK, TJ's wife. She says they love free date nights. They love, she spelled it out in capital letters, love watching airplanes take off and land.
Okay, I thought this was the coolest thing, and I'm going to bring it up to Cody and see if he wants to go do that, because TJ said that, that's one of their favorite things to do. They go out to the airport, and there's a little, like, viewing area where you can park your car, they bring a picnic, and they watch the planes take off and land. I think that's so cool, and, like, that's like a Hallmark movie romantic thing. I love that.
That's cool.
That's really cute.
Richard, who is one of our main contributors, he said anything that doesn't involve our kids, which is so fun because he's got a bunch of kids at his house.
They got a whole brood.
They got a whole brood. And by the way, you'll be introduced to Richard in a couple of weeks. He's going to be our guest, him and his wife, on our Hopecast here in a couple of weeks. But yeah, and I agree. And then David also said, we refrain from even bringing up the kids in conversation a lot of times while we're out on a date night.
I think that's something that when we got married, my parents told us about, and they were like, obviously you guys don't have kids yet, but when that time comes, like, go on a date night, but don't really talk about them, because it can be easy to focus again solely on them, and it becomes more like a business meeting rather than a date. Like, okay, so are you handling carpool next week? What's going on? And it becomes more like that.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to something you said a little bit earlier that I think can go for people without kids, and that is the fact that if you bring up just, well, what'd you do at work today? What, the kind of typical routine conversations, try to leave those aside.
Yeah.
And try to just talk about something else. Try to just bring up different things. Like, I love the fact that you said, what was your favorite movie as a kid? And bring up those memories and really, like you say, get to know someone or someone, your spouse.
Yeah, not just anybody.
Yeah, not just anybody.
Also, too, what you said about, not just asking kind of those stereotypical questions. So, for example, like Cody doesn't like to talk about work first thing when he gets home. And that took me a little while to realize because...
See, I'm kind of the same way.
Our hours are different. So by the time he gets home from work, I've been home for a while. And I'm ready to talk about my day. I've processed it. So I'm like, let's talk. And when we first got married, within the first couple months, he was like, oh, it was good. And that was all he would say. And it drove me nuts because I'd say, why don't you want to share your day with me? Like, you were gone for a whole 8 hours. I want to spend, time with you and know how it was and all this stuff. And he finally broke it down to me. He's like, Beth, I just don't want to. I was just there. And I either had a meeting that was, way too long and everything could have been said in an email and it was frustrating or whatever. Or maybe he's just like, it was just a long day and nothing too exciting happened. He just doesn't want to talk about it right then as soon as he walks in the door. And he shared with me, he was like, I kind of feel like you're just jumping on me about my day as soon as I walk in the door, and I don't like that. And I was like, cool, we're different people. I get it. So now what I tend to do is like even wait a couple days or wait until maybe the next morning, or, even there was one time where he goes, hey, did I tell you what happened 3 weeks ago at work? And he told me a story about what happened. And I was like, yeah, you didn't share that with me, but I'm glad I know about it now. It just took a little while for him to want to talk about things.
Well, I'm telling you, Cody and I are cut from the same cloth because exactly right. Yeah. When I get finished with my work day, I'm finished with it. I don't want to dwell on it anymore. You leave it at home.
That's the difference, though, between men and women. I think men compartmentalize and they leave it.
Maybe so.
Women are like, no, I'm going to bring this with me and then I need to talk about it. Right. Well, I'm like that.
I finish up my day, and whether it was good or bad, I'm done. And maybe that is what I'm doing. Maybe I am compartmentalizing because now I'm home with my family and I don't want to think about whatever it was that just happened. And sometimes I find myself doing the exact same thing, whether it's a good story or even a bad story. It may be a couple weeks before I tell Jana, and it's not because I'm holding anything back or something. Yeah. It's just like either we're too busy doing other things and I don't bring it up, or it just really wasn't a big deal at the time. Yeah. And now, did I tell you that? And it pops up. Well, no, you did, that kind of thing. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah. I think it's just about really finding out how your spouse ticks, like what makes them feel valued? What's their love language? How do they want to spend time together? Is it going and doing something? Is it having a conversation? Is it, going out kind of on a surprise date or whatever? And then really honing in on what's going to make them feel valued and what's going to be best for your relationship.
Very good. All right, so Caleb woke up over that one second. He was snoozing over there a minute ago. Okay.
No joke. Cody told me something that happened like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was funny though. It was a funny story, but he had just forgotten to tell me. And he was like, we were driving, I think we were driving to church. And he was like, he scared me because he went, oh, and I was like, what? And he was like, oh, I didn't tell you. He was like, the funniest thing happened. And then he told me this whole story. It was funny. But
because see, you talked about, and I know we're not on the air, we're on Patreon. So hey, patrons.
Hi, friends.
But Jana's a lot like that where it's just quiet. We could ride, and I'll sometimes think, okay, is something wrong?
Oh, yeah, you just don't want to.
She just doesn't talk. She's just fine. And I'll ask her, I say, everything okay? everything's fine. I said, you just don't want to talk. No
really, though,
talk, so.
Cody's made me more comfortable with silence because he doesn't, I mean, he's not crazy talkative. Like, if he has something to say, he'll say it. But most of the time, when we first got married, I would ask him, I'm like, what are you thinking about? He's like, nothing. I'm like, are you, though? Is it just blank in there? Really?
Pretty much,
and then, but I think he's made me more comfortable with just, like, kind of just being together, not even saying a whole lot, but just being together.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he's made me more comfortable with that.
That's very cool. All right, so let's bring it back with you doing Tees for Bibles. Okay. And then dang it, I lost it again. Okay, there it is. All right, I'm back. Okay.
Well, guys, we so appreciate how you support the Hopecast and listen and just really provide feedback and are just all around awesome. We so appreciate you guys bringing us into your day. If you kind of want to take it to the next level and make an impact across the world, and we do mean that literally, you can get involved with Tees for Bibles. It's the ministry arm of the Hopecast. So all you have to do is go to our website. It's steveandbethany.com, and you can scroll down to this little link that says Tees for Bibles and click on that. We have a bunch of different t-shirt designs, colors, sizes, all kinds of things. When you buy a t-shirt, not only does it promote the Hopecast and you get some cool merch out of it, but you also are providing a Bible for someone across the world that doesn't have it in their own language, somebody that has never had the Word of God in their hands before. You're providing that. So if you want to, go to our website, steveandbethany.com, and click the link that says Tees for Bibles, buy a t-shirt, and make a difference.
All right, so as we continue up here on the Steve and Bethany Hopecast, we are glad that you're here. And every week we kind of try to put a bow on these different topics that we talk about by giving you something that we recommend for you to kind of go deeper if you choose to. And this week is a little bitty booklet called Dates on a Dime that our friends over at FamilyLife came up with. And it is just, I don't know, 100 pages, 200 pages or something.
It's really tiny. Like, you could fit it into a purse.
Yes, it's super tiny, but it's like almost like a little flip book. And it's got like one little inexpensive date on each page, and there's like 100 or so of them that you can get. And so they got all kinds of fun, just kind of things to do, whether it be, you know, like we talked about, mini golf or just anything like that. So you can check that out. You can buy it if you so choose to by going to the show notes here on this episode and just clicking the little link right there. And again, by buying it from us, it actually helps us. No extra charge for you. So so we'd love for you to check it out if you are interested in it.
I think, though, it would be a really good book for somebody that's just maybe wanting to, okay, we're kind of in the same rut. We go to the same restaurant every date night. Let's mix it up a little bit. I think this book kind of helps kickstart things a little bit. So, yeah, it's in the show notes. Click on that if you want to go purchase it on Amazon. Just right below, click the link.
Absolutely. Now, before we get out of here this week, I've been noticing, you know how I am. I'm obsessed with trying to make this podcast as good as I can.
Yes.
And I'm always looking for ideas and always
Steve
things.
texts me at 1 a.m. and is just like, hey, what do you think about this? I see it the next day. Like, what are you doing up, bro?
Yeah, I know.
Go to bed.
Well, I'm a little more than disappointed that you're not up concerned about the Hopecast as I am. No,
I'm sorry.
I'm teasing.
I should be.
You probably should be.
I'm going to set an alarm for 3 this morning just to mess with you. I will.
That would be kind of, because I probably will be up. No, but what a lot of other podcasts are doing, and a lot of people seem to say that they like, is when you have a subscriber base like we do, which are excellent people we love, is to give them a shout out.
Yeah.
So over the next few weeks, we're going to kind of give a shout out to one of our different patrons that have joined us. And this week, I kind of just closed
a name.
What I did was I closed my eyes and moved the mouse up and down, and then I just stopped.
Landed on a name.
It's harder than it sounds. So I did that, and it came up on Shelly Vaughn.
Shelly, I love Shelly.
Shelly is so sweet. She is someone that I've known for a long time. Actually, she's more of a friend of my wife than she is really of mine to begin with.
Yeah, and I've only known her for a couple years, but she's so sweet. Just a precious lady.
Yeah, and she's so encouraging. She's always there to tell us how good the shows were every single week, and always, contribute in some way. So we're really appreciative of Shelly that she joins us all the time, and she's just a wonderful person. And we're thankful for Shelly being the encouragement that she is and being the patron that she is. So Salute, Shelley Vaughn. We appreciate
Thanks,
you
Shelley.
so much. Thanks so much. All right, I think we're about ready to close this one up, right?
I guess so. Yeah, we wanted to give a big thank you to Blue Stream Media. They're the reason that we're on. Our microphones are on and our lights are on and everything is rolling right now with the podcast. TJ and Caleb are an essential part of the Hopecast, and we couldn't do it without them. So if you have any AV needs coming up, whether you're doing a wedding or a special event or a concert or some kind of event with your church, whatever it looks like, contact Blue Stream Media. They do an incredible job. It's bluestreammedia.com, BLU, streammedia.com. Check them out and give TJ your business because they really do an excellent job.
They really do. I can't recommend them highly enough. And we'd love for you to visit us at steveandbethany.com. We have so many things there. Our website is completely redesigned. It's really cool. If you haven't been to our website in at least a couple of months, you need to check it out because it is really fun. And what I really like about the new design is you can leave a rating and a review just a click of a button. Yeah, there's no kind of jumping through hoops like you have to do on your phone. If you just go to our website, you can do that. And if you think we've earned a 5-star review, please let us know.
Go ahead and do it.
Go ahead and do it. Write a review. All those things help grow the show, and it doesn't cost anything but just a couple of seconds for you to do. So we really appreciate it if you'll do that.
And as we've mentioned before, we are former radio people. Our egos are fragile. So
Correct.
when we get a 5-star review, I mean, it makes our day.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Absolutely. So if you do that, we appreciate it. There's also all of our archives there. We got links to Patreon. We got links to Tees for Bibles. We've got everything. One-stop shop at steveandbethany.com. Love for you to visit there. So I guess until next week, we're done.
That's it. Thank you, guys. We appreciate y'all.
We do. Good night, Olive Branch.